Imagine this: Rio de Janeiro, 1973. It's a quiet summer evening. The sun is setting, casting a warm glow over the city. In a comfortable, middle-class neighborhood, a 10-year-old boy named Carlos Ramirez da Costa is playing outside his family's home. Everyone calls him Carlinhos. It's just another ordinary day filled with the simple joys of childhood. But then, a knock on the door changes everything. Carlinhos' mother opens it to find a man standing there. He asks for her son by name. She calls for Carlinhos, who walks outside to see what the man wants. And that is the last time anyone ever saw him. He just vanished. No screams, no struggle, no witnesses. It was as if the ground opened up and swallowed him whole. One moment he was there, a boy playing in his yard, and the next, he was gone. The disappearance of Carlinhos sent shockwaves across Brazil. It wasn't just a news story, it became a national obsession, a mystery that gripped the heart of an entire country. The case triggered one of the largest and most complex police investigations in Brazilian history. Hundreds of officers were assigned to the case, turning Rio de Janeiro upside down. They scoured every inch of the city, from the bustling city streets to the dense, sprawling favelas and the dark, tangled forests surrounding the metropolis. Every officer, every detective was on high alert, looking for any clue, any sign of the missing boy. The media coverage was relentless. Carlinhos' face, a picture of an innocent 10-year-old, was plastered on every newspaper, every television screen. The public was captivated and horrified. How could a child just disappear from his own front door in broad daylight? The investigation quickly became a labyrinth of false leads and dead ends. The police were inundated with tips, but none of them led anywhere concrete. They received ransom calls, but each one turned out to be a cruel hoax from opportunists trying to profit from a family's unimaginable pain. Desperate for any breakthrough, the authorities even consulted with psychics and clairvoyants who offered visions and cryptic clues about the boy's whereabouts. These sessions, while providing momentary glimmers of hope, ultimately led to more confusion and frustration. The mystery deepened with every passing day. Tips poured in, not just from all over Brazil, but from around the world. There were reported sightings in neighboring countries, theories of international kidnapping rings, but every lead that seemed promising would eventually fizzle out, leaving investigators right back where they started, with nothing. Years turned into decades, and the case of Carlinhos grew colder, but it was never forgotten. It became a piece of Brazilian folklore, a cautionary tale whispered from one generation to the next. The mystery spawned countless theories, each more elaborate and unsettling than the last. Some people believed he was kidnapped for a political motive, a pawn in the turbulent political climate of 1970s Brazil under military dictatorship. Others whispered of dark rituals and occult sacrifices, suggesting a far more sinister fate. There was the theory that he was taken by a wealthy, childless couple who wanted a son of their own and had him spirited away to another country to be raised under a new identity. Could he be alive somewhere, completely unaware of his true past? Each theory was a thread in a tapestry of speculation, but none could be proven. The police files grew thicker, filled with interviews, reports, and dead-end leads. But the central question remained unanswered: what happened to Carlinhos? One of the most persistent and heartbreaking theories was that his disappearance was an act of revenge against his father, João da Costa. João was a successful businessman, but rumors swirled that he had powerful enemies. Was Carlinhos taken to settle a score? This theory suggested that the kidnapping wasn't about money, but about inflicting the ultimate pain on his father. Investigators looked into João's business dealings, his personal relationships, searching for anyone who might hold a grudge so deep that they would resort to such a monstrous act. They interviewed his associates, his rivals, his friends. But like every other path they explored, this one too led to a wall of silence. There was no evidence, no confession, nothing to substantiate the claims. The family was left to grapple not only with the loss of their son, but also with the haunting possibility that someone they knew might be responsible for their endless nightmare. As the years went on, a strange and tragic phenomenon began to unfold. Dozens of young men, and even some women, came forward claiming to be the long-lost Carlinhos. Each claim forced the da Costa family to relive their trauma. They would meet with these individuals, scrutinize their faces, listen to their stories, desperately hoping for a miracle. Each time their hopes were raised, only to be brutally crushed. DNA tests, physical examinations, and detailed questioning always revealed the truth. They were imposters. Some were mentally ill, genuinely believing they were the missing boy. Others were cruel opportunists, seeking fame or a share of the family's wealth. Imagine the emotional roller coaster for his parents, having to look into the eyes of a stranger and search for a flicker of their lost son, only to be disappointed again and again. It was a secondary form of torture, a constant reopening of a wound that never had a chance to heal. One of the most famous and dramatic of these claims came from a man who was certain he was Carlinhos. He had a story that seemed plausible, and for a moment the entire nation held its breath. The media descended, and it seemed the decades-old mystery was finally about to be solved. He underwent extensive DNA testing against samples from Carlinhos' parents. The country waited anxiously for the results. When they came back, the answer was a definitive no. He was not Carlinhos. This public letdown was a powerful reminder that the case was still very much open, and the truth remained buried. The real Carlinhos, if he was still alive, would be a middle-aged man. Would he even remember his childhood, his family, the life that was stolen from him? Or was he gone forever, his fate sealed on that quiet summer evening in 1973? The case also exposed the limitations of forensic science at the time. In 1973, there was no DNA testing as we know it today. Fingerprinting was less sophisticated, and the concept of a national database for missing persons was non-existent. The police had to rely on traditional detective work, eyewitness accounts, shoe leather investigation, and intuition. But with no crime scene, no body, and no credible witnesses, they had almost nothing to work with. If Carlinhos disappeared today, the investigation would be radically different. Amber alerts would flash on every phone and highway sign. Security cameras from nearby homes and businesses might have captured the vehicle or the kidnapper. A single hair or fiber left behind could be a treasure trove of DNA evidence, potentially identifying a suspect within days. The case of Carlinhos is a stark reminder of how much technology has changed the face of criminal investigation. For him and his family, those tools came decades too late. The emotional toll on the Da Costa family was immeasurable. His mother, Maria, never gave up hope. For the rest of her life, she kept a light on in the house, a symbol that her son would always have a way to find his way home. She spoke to reporters for years, keeping his story alive, pleading for any information. She passed away without ever knowing what happened to her boy. His father, João, was also haunted by the disappearance, living under a cloud of suspicion and grief. The absence of their son was a constant presence in their lives, a void that could never be filled. The uncertainty was perhaps the cruelest part. Without a body, without answers, there could be no closure, no final goodbye. They were trapped in a state of suspended grief, forever waiting for a knock on the door that might bring their son back, or at least bring them the truth. Today, nearly half a century later, the disappearance of Carlinhos Ramirez da Costa remains one of Brazil's most profound and enduring unsolved mysteries. It has become a cultural touchstone, a symbol of innocence lost, and the terrifying reality that someone can simply vanish without a trace. The case files are still officially open, but they gather dust in a police archive. The leads have long since gone cold. The main figures in the story, his parents, many of the original investigators, have passed away. But the question still hangs in the air, a ghost that haunts the Brazilian consciousness. Where is Carlinhos? What really happened that evening? Was it a ransom plot gone wrong? A personal revenge? A random, senseless act of evil? We may never know the truth. The story of Carlinhos is a chilling reminder that some questions are destined to remain unanswered, echoing through time as a testament to an unresolved tragedy. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into one of history's most baffling cases. If you find these stories as fascinating as I do, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more unsolved mysteries. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. What do you think happened to Carlinhos? Let me know your theories in the comments below. Stay curious, and I'll see you in the next video.
Imagine you're walking home from school one sunny afternoon, and then you vanish. No witnesses, no ransom note, no trace. This isn't the plot of a movie. It's the real-life mystery of Carlinhos, a 10-year-old boy who disappeared from Rio de Janeiro in 1973, leaving a nation baffled and a family shattered. This case became one of Brazil's most infamous unsolved mysteries. A story so perplexing it feels like it was ripped from the pages of a thriller novel. Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today we're re-diving deep into a case that has haunted Brazil for half a century. The vanishing of Carlos Ramirez da Costa, better known as Carlinhos. On August 2nd, 1973, Carlinhos left his home in the quiet suburb of Laranjeiras. His mother had sent him on a simple errand to a neighbor's house, just a short walk away. He never arrived. He never came home. The search began almost immediately, a frantic effort by family and neighbors, which soon escalated into a massive citywide manhunt. Police were stumped. How could a boy just disappear in broad daylight on a familiar street? As days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, the lack of evidence gave rise to a storm of theories. Each one seemed more plausible and yet more terrifying than the last. The initial and most common assumption was a kidnapping for ransom. Carlinhos's family wasn't wealthy, but they weren't destitute either. They owned their home and a small business. Perhaps the kidnappers overestimated their wealth. The family waited by the phone, praying for a call, a demand, anything. But the call never came. No ransom note was ever found. This silence was deafening and pointed away from a typical kidnapping. With the ransom theory fading, a darker, more political shadow began to fall over the case. Remember, this was 1973, the height of Brazil's military dictatorship. This was a time of intense political repression, where dissent was crushed and people frequently disappeared at the hands of the state. Was it possible that Carlinhos's family was involved in some anti-government activity? Could the boy have been taken as a form of political leverage or punishment? His father was questioned extensively, but investigators found no links to any subversive groups. The family was ordinary, apolitical, yet the specter of the dictatorship loomed large. And the idea that Carlinhos was a victim of its clandestine operations became a popular and chilling theory among the public. But the speculation didn't stop there. The void left by the lack of facts was filled with even more outlandish and sinister ideas. Rumors of cult activity began to circulate. Had Carlinhos been taken for a ritual sacrifice? Brazil has a rich and complex tapestry of spiritual beliefs, and unfortunately, this sometimes leads to sensationalist fears about dark occult practices. Tabloid newspapers ran wild with these stories, painting gruesome pictures with no evidence to back them up. Another persistent rumor whispered of elite conspiracies. Some suggested that a wealthy, childless couple had orchestrated the abduction, using their power and influence to snatch a child and cover their tracks. Creating a new identity for him far from Rio, every lead was pursued. Every dark alley of speculation was explored, but each one led to the same place, a dead end. The police files grew thicker, but the truth remained as elusive as the boy himself. For over 2 decades, the case of Carlinhos went cold. The trail had vanished, just like the boy. His face, immortalized in black and white newspaper photos, became a symbol of lost innocence and a nation's collective mystery. His family was left in a state of perpetual limbo, unable to mourn, unable to move on, forever hoping for a miracle. The name Carlinhos became a household word in Brazil, a cautionary tale told to children. And then, just when it seemed the story was permanently relegated to the archives of unsolved crimes, something incredible happened. In the late 1990s, more than 20 years after his disappearance, the case exploded back into the headlines. A man came forward, claiming he was the long-lost Carlinhos. The nation was captivated. Could this be him? He had a story that was both plausible and heartbreaking. He claimed he had been raised by another family in a different state. Far from Rio, he said he had fragmented, dreamlike memories of his childhood. Flashes of being taken by a man, of a car journey, of another home. His story matched some of the details of the original disappearance, but not all. He looked somewhat like the aged-up photographs of Carlinhos that had been circulated. But years can change a person dramatically. The hope was electrifying. For the D.A. Costa family, it was a potential answer to a lifetime of prayer. The authorities, eager to finally close this painful chapter, arranged for DNA testing. This was the moment of truth. Science would finally provide the definitive answer that decades of investigation could not. Samples were taken from the man and from Carlinhos's biological mother. The country held its breath, waiting for the results. But the mystery of Carlinhos was not destined for a simple resolution. The DNA results came back, and they were inconclusive. The technology of the time wasn't as advanced as it is today, and the samples allegedly didn't provide a clear match or a clear exclusion. Some reports claimed there was a partial match, while others said the results were simply too degraded to be certain. The ambiguity was maddening. It solved nothing. Instead, it just added another layer of complexity to an already impenetrable puzzle. So, who was this man? Was he truly Carlinhos, a victim of a flawed DNA test, forever separated from his real family? Or was he an imposter, perhaps a troubled individual genuinely believing he was the lost boy, a victim of his own false memories? Or maybe, more cynically, he was a fraud, seeking fame or financial gain from one of Brazil's most famous tragedies. The public was divided. The family was thrown back into uncertainty. To this day, his true identity remains a subject of intense debate. This man, the potential Carlinhos, eventually faded back into obscurity, leaving the world with more questions than answers. And so the case of Carlinhos remains open. It's a story with no ending, a wound that has never healed. Was he a victim of a simple crime gone wrong? A casualty of a brutal political regime? The target of a bizarre cult or a powerful elite? Or did he simply run away and start a new life? A theory some have floated, though it seems unlikely for a 10-year-old. And what of the man who claimed to be him? Was he the miracle the family had been waiting for, or just another cruel twist in this long, sad story? Half a century later, we are no closer to the truth than the police were in 1973. The mystery of Carlinhos endures, a haunting reminder that sometimes the most profound questions are the ones that are never answered. What do you think happened to him? Let me know your theories in the comments below. More than 50 years have passed since Carlinhos disappeared. His mother never stopped believing he was alive somewhere, but no body was ever found. No suspect was ever charged, and no one ever truly explained what happened on that summer evening in 1973. A boy opens the door and disappears forever. Who took Carlinhos? And why has Brazil never found the answer? The case of Carlinhos, Brazil's oldest unsolved child disappearance. Subscribe for more true crime mysteries.